Ellen DeGeneres, if you don't know, is a stand-up comic turned sitcom star, turned undeserved social pariah, turned beloved daytime TV talk show host, turned deserved social pariah.
She told her audience to be kind to one another for 17 years straight. She built an empire on that phrase. Merchandise, book deals, a talk show that ran over 4,000 episodes. The word kind was her brand, her identity, her whole entire personality. And then, almost overnight, it all fell apart. What happened to Ellen DeGeneres is one of the most dramatic falls from grace Hollywood has ever seen. Not because she made one mistake, not because of a single bad interview or a poorly timed joke, but because dozens of people, from A-list celebrities to junior production assistants, all started telling the same story at the same time. And that story had nothing to do with kindness. For years, the rumors stayed quiet.
I started my PR prediction career back at Ellen because boy did I call this when this happened, because I spotted this tweet that I talk about in my book from Kevin T. Porter. He said in a tweet, right now we all need a little kindness, you know, like Ellen DeGeneres always talks about. That's snark. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. So respond to this tweet with the most insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll match everyone with $2 to the @LA Food Bank. Kevin T. Porter is the reason why the PR crisis started, because all the people who retweeted and replied to the tweet with the anecdotes about Ellen not being mean, it was picked up by digital news media back then, which had a lot of eyeballs, BuzzFeed being one of them.
Hollywood has a way of keeping its secrets, especially when the person at the center of them is powerful enough to end careers. Ellen was that powerful. She could make an unknown guest a household name overnight, or quietly make sure someone never worked in the industry again.
Oh, Ellen DeGeneres, obviously.
Yeah, you were early on the This Place is Toxic.
First day of work, not making this up because there was already about 5 writers there when I got hired. I walk into her office, and I walk in, and I'm standing in the middle of the floor, and she goes, "Oh, we got the new writer. Let's take a look at you." Okay, turn around. And that was my first thought of like, oh, this is going to be that. This is going to be me as the guy. I was the only guy on the staff at that point. Like, this is how I'm going to be treated.
I believe she's leaving because the workplace conditions, you know, I mean, we all in this room know people who've worked at the, and people who've worked here themselves. Ellen, and here's the thing. I'm glad that you thanked your Ellen fans, or whatever you call your nation, but 19 years on TV doesn't change your life. It exposes you for the person that you really are. I was a guest. I wasn't happy. Just saying, Norman. And people called me out on it before I was able to say anything about it. Like, oh my gosh.
That kind of influence buys a lot of silence. But silence has a breaking point. It started with small cracks, a viral clip here, a whispered conversation there, a celebrity interview that felt just a little bit off. Viewers started rewinding, replaying, and asking questions. Why did that guest look so uncomfortable? Why did Ellen's smile not quite reach her eyes in that moment? Why did so many former employees seem to disappear without explanation? What followed was an avalanche. Celebrities came forward, staff members spoke to journalists.
Ellen is mean. Fine. She scares the people she works with. Fine. But that's who she is. And all the people will tell you by the look on their face, because they told me, don't talk about this, don't talk about that. And the guy was clearly scared. I was sitting in the green room going, yeah, I'll go up there and tell. Don't talk about it. He circled back and goes, seriously, don't. Meaning somebody talked about that.
And still did it.
She is vegetarian or vegan.
Okay.
Somebody went in there and talked about having a big fucking barbecue on the 4th of July, and then she went back to her segment producer and fucking screamed at him.
Right.
Because she's a bitch. And she's vegetarian, and she didn't want to hear about it or promote it or have to smile through it.
A formal investigation was launched into the production company behind the show. And the woman who once danced her way into America's living rooms every single afternoon became the subject of one of the biggest scandals daytime television had ever produced.
A year later, I come on the show, and the guy goes, do not talk about making flank steak, you know, and I'm like, I'm not talking about that. Yeah, but don't. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm going, all I did is I go, scared. I mean, it's like, look, a wife who's being beaten.
Right.
You know, she'll go, look, you go, hang out, have another. No, I should really get home. You know, it's like,
Right.
okay, you're scared.
Right.
You're scared. That's how employees act. You know?
This is the full story. The names, the moments, the patterns, and the inside accounts that Hollywood tried very hard to keep buried. Starting with the incident that first made the public stop and think, wait, something isn't right here. The clip that started everything didn't come from a whistleblower. It didn't come from a tabloid expose or an anonymous tip. It came from a birthday party. Or rather, a birthday party that never actually happened. In December 2019, Dakota Johnson sat across from Ellen on that famous blue couch and smiled through what became one of the most talked about television moments of the entire decade.
Belated birthday. When was your birthday?
It was October 4th.
October 4th. You turned 30.
I did.
And how was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited. Last time I was on the show, last year, you gave me a bunch of about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited.
Well, who doesn't want to be invited to a party?
Well, I didn't even know you liked me.
Of course I like you. You knew I liked you. You've been on the show many times, and don't I show like?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But I did invite you and you didn't come.
Ellen told the audience she hadn't been invited to Dakota's birthday party. She played it like a joke, leaning into that signature wounded puppy expression she'd perfected over years of hosting.
So.
This time you invited me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't think so.
Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer. Who said you were?
I was invited?
Right.
Why didn't I go?
I don't know.
Was it? Oh yeah, I had that thing. It was probably in Malibu. That's too far for me to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. No, I think I do remember I was invited. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's Not the Truth, Ellen became a meme immediately. But more importantly, it led to people doing some digging and putting together that she was out of town because she was in Texas at a football game with former President George W. Bush. And this led to some major discourse about how a lesbian who supposedly believes in kindness could be friends with an anti-LGBT war criminal like Bush.
The studio went quiet for just a second, a beat too long. Ellen recovered quickly, pivoting and deflecting, but the damage was done. Viewers at home caught it immediately. Ellen had been caught manufacturing a story on live television at a guest's expense, and when that guest pushed back, Ellen's composure slipped just enough for everyone to see what was underneath. What made the moment so powerful wasn't just the correction, it was Ellen's reaction to being corrected. She didn't laugh it off gracefully. She didn't own it. She got visibly sharp, almost irritated, before quickly smoothing it back over with a smile. It was a micro-expression of control, of someone who was deeply uncomfortable with not having the upper hand.
She built her public persona around being nice, which is always a precarious thing to do. Her whole thing was kindness and dancing and we're just having fun, and even with everything that came out later, it can never be erased that she had a truly seismic effect on society by being able to reach your homophobic aunt in her living room every day for 19 years and be relatable. Like, we literally wouldn't have gay marriage without Ellen.
That clip went viral almost instantly. And once it did, something shifted in the public conversation around Ellen. People started revisiting old interviews with fresh eyes. They started noticing patterns they'd previously dismissed as quirks or bad days. The Mariah Carey champagne moment resurfaced. The interviews where guests looked cornered rather than comfortable started circulating again. The internet had a new question, and it wasn't going away. Was Ellen DeGeneres actually the person she'd spent 2 decades pretending to be? And who exactly had been trying to warn everyone long before Dakota said a word?
She's talking about Ellen DeGeneres is a place of happiness. No one would ever raise a voice here. Everything's la 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 la. Then she says, obviously something changed, and I'm disappointed to learn that this has not been the case. That's distancing language. She goes on, more distancing language. So along with Warner Brothers, we immediately began an internal investigation, and we are taking steps together to correct the issues. She's the issue. The producers, in fairness, I did talk to someone who was a producer, or not a producer, but they worked on the staff there, and they said Ellen was like, whatever, but the producers were bad too, allegedly.
Kathy Griffin had been trying to answer that question for years, and Hollywood hadn't listened.
We have a beef, at least in my mind we do. I don't think she doesn't give a about me, but I just love giving Ellen because it just never gets old. She just can't stand it. She has no sense of humor about herself. We had a fight one time that was a knockdown drag out, screaming on the phones, both of us screaming, and I think that's so funny. Like, picture Kathy Griffin and Ellen DeGeneres split screen.
What are you yelling
both with
about?
our cell phones and assistants screaming at each other.
Over what?
She thought Joan Rivers was not funny, but Joan was just mean. And I think Joan was not only not mean, but she was a genius, but also that Ellen kind of owed part of her career to the fact that Joan was the first woman to have a talk show, broke the glass ceiling for women in talk, whether you like her or not. So anyway, I just make fun of Ellen because she doesn't take it well.
Long before the Dakota clip went viral, Kathy had been openly talking about her experiences with Ellen. She didn't whisper about it in private. She said it plainly, in interviews, on podcasts, in her own comedy specials. Ellen wasn't just cold or difficult, Kathy said. She was calculated. She used her position to quietly close doors for people she didn't like, and she did it in a way that was almost impossible to trace back to her directly. Kathy claimed Ellen had actively worked behind the scenes to keep her off certain projects and away from certain rooms. Not through a public fight or a dramatic falling out. Through the quieter, more effective method of simply making her unwelcome. A word in the right ear. A preference expressed to the right producer.
What about Ellen DeGeneres? A little nasty in the book against her.
Well, I tell a story about her. That was my experience when I was on her show.
What happened to you?
I just thought she really kind of ruled that set with an iron fist in a way that was a little like, it took me back a little bit.
Well, but if she were a man, you wouldn't be saying that. You'd say she was very strong and tough.
Well, I thought she was, what she did was, felt like she sort of had me perform like a circus monkey.
Oh, really?
Which normally I'm happy to do. Although I think I'm currently banned from her show.
And is there camaraderie amongst the women comedians?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, you know what? There's a few of us vying for a few jobs. Let's face it, we're all fighting for a handful of jobs. So sometimes girl-on-girl crime can be the worst.
In an industry built almost entirely on who likes you and who doesn't, that kind of soft blacklisting can be devastating. At the time, most people wrote Kathy off. She had a reputation for being provocative, for saying things that made people uncomfortable. It was easy to dismiss her claims as part of that persona. But after Dakota's interview cracked the surface, people started going back to what Kathy had said and finding it a lot harder to ignore. Then came a voice from an entirely different world. Nikkie DeGeneres, the Dutch makeup artist known globally as Nikkie Tutorials, had built her platform completely outside of Hollywood. She had no industry grudges, no career rivalry, no reason to weaponize a story about a talk show host. When she opened up about her appearance on Ellen's show, people paid attention precisely because of how ordinary and unguarded her account was. Nikkie described arriving at the studio excited, nervous, genuinely thrilled to be there. What she found waiting for her was something much colder. She said Ellen didn't greet her, didn't stop by. The production team kept guests separated in ways that felt deliberate and unwelcoming, and the warmth that radiated from the screen every afternoon was nowhere to be found backstage. Nikkie's account landed differently than the celebrity stories had, because Nikkie wasn't playing Hollywood politics. She wasn't settling a score or protecting a rival project. She was just a creator who had shown up to a television studio, hoping to have a good experience, and left feeling confused and dismissed.
Not done with them. As I was stating in the previous video, the situation between these two was very telling because, as a member of the LGBTQ+ community, Ellen wanted the clout, but didn't think that Nikkie Tutorials was as good as her, resulting in the treatment of Nikkie Tutorials when she went on the Ellen show. Because what I want you guys to realize, before Ellen identifies as a LGBTQ+ member, she is first and foremost a rich woman. And she behaves accordingly. And I feel like that kind of disses rich white women because some of them just be minding their business for real. Because sis is high-key got mental health issues, I think. I'm no doctor. So I mean, don't believe me, I guess. But she gives me like psychotic vibes, scary sociopath vibes. One of the paths, you know, she a path something. But her identity is an onion, and it has very much a ranking system, and that just screams crazy.
That kind of story is hard to spin, hard to discredit, and it matched, almost point for point, what others had been quietly describing for years. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. But patterns need proof, and proof was exactly what landed in the spring of 2020. A BuzzFeed investigation published accounts from over a dozen current and former Ellen Show employees. These weren't celebrities with public profiles and career motivations. These were writers, producers, coordinators, and crew members, people who had spent years working inside the machine that made Ellen DeGeneres one of the most recognized faces on television. And what they described was a workplace built on fear. Staff members said they were discouraged from speaking directly to Ellen. Some claimed they were told not to make eye contact with her in hallways. Others described being let go without warning or explanation, sometimes after years of loyal service, with no conversation and no closure. Microaggressions, favoritism, and a culture of silence were mentioned repeatedly across multiple separate accounts. What made the investigation so damaging wasn't any single allegation. It was the consistency. Person after person, from different departments, different years, different roles within the production, all describing the same atmosphere. An environment where kindness was performed on camera and something very different was practiced behind it. 3 senior producers were eventually let go following the investigation. The show released a statement. Ellen herself addressed it on air when the show returned for its 18th season, offering what many viewers and former employees described as an apology that stopped just short of actually taking responsibility. She spoke about a culture that had developed, framing it as something that had grown around her rather than something she had built. But the people who had worked there knew the difference, and so did the audience watching at home. The apology didn't stop the bleeding. If anything, it opened a new wound. Because once the workplace investigation became public knowledge, the celebrity accounts started carrying more weight. People went back to the Mariah Carey interview with completely different eyes. What had once been dismissed as an awkward moment on live television now looked like something more deliberate. Ellen had pressured Mariah, visibly and repeatedly, to drink champagne on camera during a period when Mariah was privately dealing with a pregnancy she wasn't ready to discuss publicly. The clip is uncomfortable to watch even without context. With context, it became almost unbearable. Mariah later confirmed she had suffered a miscarriage around that time. She never directly blamed Ellen for what happened in that interview, but she didn't have to. The footage said everything it needed to say about what happens when someone's need to control a moment outweighs any concern for the person sitting across from them. Rosie O'Donnell's history with Ellen added another layer entirely. The two had known each other for decades, long enough that their tension wasn't a surprise to anyone inside the industry. But Rosie's accounts revealed something specific. She described feeling that Ellen viewed other prominent women in entertainment not as peers or allies, but as competition to be managed. Friendships in that world, Rosie suggested, were always partly transactional. And when they stopped serving a purpose, they cooled fast. What emerged from every account, every investigation, every resurfaced clip, was a portrait of someone who had mastered the performance of warmth while keeping the real thing at a very careful distance. The dancing, the games, the giveaways, the catchphrase, all of it was real in the sense that it happened. But it existed in a bubble, sealed off from everything that went on once the cameras stopped rolling. Here's the question that no one has quite been able to answer, even now. Was Ellen aware of the gap between her image and her reality? Did she know exactly what she was doing? Or had she simply convinced herself, along with everyone else, that the version on camera was the true one? Ellen DeGeneres ended her talk show in 2022 after 19 seasons. She framed it as a creative decision, a natural conclusion to a chapter she was ready to close. But the ratings told a different story, and so did the empty seats at industry events she once headlined without question. Hollywood had quietly moved on, the way Hollywood always does, without a formal announcement and without much ceremony. What her story leaves behind is a question worth sitting with. How does someone build an entire identity around a value they don't actually live by? And how does an industry full of smart, connected, watchful people let it go on for nearly 2 decades before anyone said anything loud enough to matter? Maybe the more uncomfortable answer is that everyone already knew. And the real story of Ellen DeGeneres isn't just about one person's behavior. It's about every room that stayed quiet, every journalist who looked the other way, and every executive who decided the ratings were more important than the people making them. That's the version of Hollywood no one really wants to talk about. But we will. If this story had you hooked, drop a comment with your honest take on Ellen. Like this video if you want more deep dives like this one, subscribe for more Hollywood stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we'll see you in the next one.